Welcome back everybody. Today we're gonna play Viper on Split. Today is day 151 of playing every agent on every map. Today's agent Viper is in my opinion a defense specialist, but sucks really much on attack. Because you can place your wall at one place, you can also place your orb now at one place, so you can't really have a lot of flexibility with a Viper. Her mollies are still insanely strong, or her molly is still insanely strong to stop enemies from pushing, because it vulnerables them and it also does damage to them. Also that combined with her orb or her wall makes it insanely strong to defend a site with. Other than that, I also don't really think Viper is too good on a map like Split. Most maps Viper is not really that good as a solo smoker, can be used as a double smoker, but you are really going to struggle to smoke off all of the spaces with just one Viper wall or a orb, and if you have both of them up at the same time, they're not going to hold for that long and it's going to be really hard for you to take that space. Starting off with A-side defense, and on A-side defense you can throw a orb in the beginning of the round right here, making sure nobody comes in, and then as soon as your orb lands you can pop it up. This makes it really hard for the enemies to come in through a main, but it is also not the best one because most of the times the enemies are going to be through here pretty fast, your orb takes some time to land, and then you can't really use it. So I don't really recommend this one, but if you have this one up and the enemies are coming towards A, you can then even throw a snakebite into the orb, making it really hard for the enemies to come out, and if they do, they're gonna take a lot of damage. Another really good setup I have is one where you go into the vent in the beginning of the round and place your Viper wall, go all the way in this corner, and then place your Viper wall like this. This will make it so you have a gap right here where you can hide in, especially if you have a Euro or a Chamber. This is a pretty good hiding spot, and also that it covers through main. This is pretty strong because most of the times the enemies are going to come through a main, and then you can just throw a snakebite here and hold the enemies from coming in. Same thing also with ramp. If you decide to play up here, you can use a snakebite right here, make it really hard for the enemies to come in. The other really good thing about this wall is that you place it here in vents, and if you're going then over towards mid to place your orb in mid, you have a pretty good defender setup with a wall for A and a smoke for B. For the smoke in mid, you just aim, get yourself at around this corner here, stuck in the spawn barrier, and then aim at around this area. Your orb will land down here and will perfectly cover the mid space and make it really hard for enemies to come in through mid. Like this, you can even play close here, play close on the other side, make it really hard for them to hold to come in through the mid space. They're going to take a lot of damage. If you feel like they're coming through, you can also just use a snakebite, make it really hard for them to get in. This is a thing I've recommended that you do most of the times, is to use a wall towards one side and use your orb in the mid. What you can also do is a wall like this one, that it goes through mid and also through ramp. It will have a small gap right here on this side, but it will cover all three lanes, and it will also allow you to kind of have information over people coming in main and have a really unexpected off angle. Like that you can get kills, and like that it's going to be really hard for the enemies to figure out where you are, and you can get information over A. It also makes it really hard for the enemies to take the ramp space. You can even retake this space pretty easily. You put your wall up, you go all the way close here, put your wall up again, and you kind of have a really good off angle. As soon as you drop your wall, the enemies are not really gonna expect you. Same thing also with mid, it covers the mid space pretty well. As you can see, all of mid is covered. You can even hide a little close here, but they can't see you through, but it's not the best hiding spot, but it makes it really hard for enemies to come in through mid, and then you can use mollies right here to make it even harder for them to come in. Now switching over towards mid, and on mid it is possible to throw a orb right here on top of this ledge. In mid you also have the option for a pretty strong one-way. For that you get yourself lined up right here. You can see there's a rope here going, and then after this clipping thing, you go to the next one where there is a big thing looking out. You get all the way down, look at this corner, and then you aim right here at the top of this light thing. It is pretty precise, so you have to aim exactly where I'm aiming, and then you just throw a orb. Normal throw, it will land right on top of this ledge and will be a great one way for you to defend the mid and also be heaven with just this singular one way, making it really hard for the enemies to come through, and then you can just spam them as soon as they're coming in, or you can use a molly right here as well. This makes it insanely hard for the enemies to come through, and is in general a great way to defend the mid space. It is possible for the enemies to cross over towards the vents, but for that you should have another teammate watching that, or you should call your teammates when somebody is crossing through. Now switching over towards B, and on B you can use a similar wall as the one on A, that goes all the way through mid like this. This wall is also pretty strong for your teammates in heaven, because if this wall is up, they can hide behind here. If they have flashes, they can flash out and peek the people in mid. Also, it allows them to go a little out, go all the way behind these boxes, and makes it pretty easy to defend mid. If the enemies are coming towards B and you don't have your wall, you can also use a orb right here in the middle, in the beginning of the round, making it really hard for the enemies to come in, and then using slow mollies to kind of slow the enemies down. This makes it also incredibly hard for them to get in. Other than that, there's not really much you can do. I personally think Viper is not really the greatest agent to play on split, especially on attack. On defense, she is really usable. As you can see, you can pretty much cover half of the map with her wall and then the other half with the orb. Like that, you can have control almost all over the map, but it is in general not as good as having, for example, a normal smoker. And now switching over towards attack, and you might have realized it, I'm rushing a little bit. That is because today is my birthday and I don't really have that much time to record, but I still want to make a video. That's why I'm showing you how to play Viper on split, because I, in my opinion, think a Viper is not the greatest agent you can play on split, especially not as a solo smoke. In pro play, you see her played really often on a map like split, because she is pretty good as a double smoker and in general used as a defender. But in my opinion, just don't use a Viper on split if you're playing in a normal comp game. If you do still want to use a Viper, you can come all the way here in the beginning of the round and place a wall for a heaven like this. It will also cover ramp and will make it pretty easy for you to take the A space. The only thing you kind of need to worry about is CT right here. You can throw a orb right there, but in most cases it's not really worth it, because you can't really have your wall up for that long at the same time as you have your orb up. So it is worth just leaving the CT open. If you have another smoker, use your smoke there, and if not, just use some damaging util, for example a snake bite right there, to make it really hard for the enemies to come in. For your orb, you can also use it towards heaven. This is something that is used pretty often in pro play, using orbs that are covering the heaven space, because the Viper orb is one of the biggest smokes in the game and it makes it really hard for the enemies to come out. Plus they also take damage inside of this orb. The other option for your orb can be on the default plant spot. You can either even throw it all the way up here, kind of one way off the enemies. It isn't a perfect one way, you are still going to be able to see their legs, so if somebody is going for the defuse, you will be able to see where they are at, and you can get a free kill on them. Also, using volleys like that, it can be pretty strong. Other than that, what you can do is to throw your orb towards CT still, and make it really hard for the enemies to come out of the CT space. Also playing inside your orb, or even peeking out the behind of the orb and then trying to get a kill like that and then going back, can be pretty strong. For your ult, it is pretty much the same thing as on defense. I haven't shown you any ult setups on defense, but in general, just use your ult somewhere where you can kind of cover all of the side, make it really hard for the enemies to come in. This ult is pretty good if you are playing with a lot of people, so you have a teammate that is holding the elbow space, and then you have a teammate holding this main space, and you are basically sitting back, making sure that you are not dying. And then you can just use molly on top of the spike, depending on where you're planted. Another really strong ult is one towards the elbow area and towards CT. It is a ult like this, where you get into the elbow area itself and ult all of CT. Like this, the enemies that are trying to come out of CT are going to have a really hard time, and it's going to make it really hard for them to take the space, and the rest of your team can then just hold main and heaven. Also, this is a pretty safe ult, because you can just wait right here close and hold the enemies from coming in. No enemy should be able to come in like that, and you have always the option to see them first and get an easy kill off of them. And now switching over towards mid, and on mid, usually you have a smoke right here in vents. This is still possible, but it is going to be quite a lot harder on a Viper. You have to kind of jump throw your orb, and sometimes it doesn't even land right. But this, like this, you kind of have a smoke right here. The other option to have a smoke right here in the vents area is to use a wall through the vents area like this, but then the rest of your wall is not really a good value because it is mainly in CT. It can be used pretty well to if you have taken the heaven space with, for example, some flashes or some stuns, and then you can just hold this space right here as well pretty well with this wall, because anyone that is walking through is going to take some decay damage, and they're also going to be like pretty low. The other option is to get lineups for this spot, but in my opinion, it's not really worth having a lineup for that spot. Just peeking out with some flashes, and then maybe using your orb here close to kind of stop enemies from coming out, and then using mollies. Your molly can also be kind of used as a smoke to kind of deter the enemies from peeking out, making sure they are not peeking out, because they're going to be vulnerable and they're going to take some damage. If you're trying to take the heaven space, you can also use your orb right here to kind of defend the space behind you, make it really hard for the enemies to retake B heaven from mid, and then you can use mollies right here to make it even harder for them to come in. If you want to go B, you can use a wall like this one to cover off the heaven space, and also parts of CT. It is the greatest wall, but as long as it covers this space up here, it should do you quite a lot of work for you. Other options you have to defend the B side after you have taken it is using a ult like this one to kind of cover all of the heaven space, make it really hard for the enemies to come in from the heaven space, but for that you need a second teammate holding this space with you. Or you can use a ult towards CT, like this, making it really hard for the enemies to retake the CT space, because they're going to be vulnerable almost all of the way, and since you are a Viper in your ult, you can see the enemies further away, and you can get some free kills on them. For the Viper ult, I recommend in general that you're using your Phantom I know most people really prefer the Vandal, but in a Viper ult, a Phantom is just way better because you are not leaving any tracers, and you can also shoot faster, and a headshot is gonna be a person that either way. Another thing that you can do is use a Viper Orb right here. This will cover all of the plant spots, and then when you use a molly on the plant spot, you can get them off of the spike pretty easily. Same thing also with the close corner right here. A molly can cover this spot right here with this Viper Orb as well. If I had to give Viper a rating from S to F, I'd actually give her the C tier. In my opinion, Viper on split is just not an agent that works pretty well, especially on attack, but if you use her as a double smokes, I actually give her the S tier. She's really strong at controlling the mid space on defense, and also pretty good at using her walls to lurk on A. Same thing also on B, but on B it's not really that effective. But you can still use a Viper pretty well, and in my opinion a Viper's pit can be insanely strong, especially on the B side, to defend the site from enemies re-entering to the site. That would be it from me. If you want to see any other agent on any other map, write it down in the comments, and if you want to see anything else Valorant related, write it down there as well. And as always, don't forget to like and sub, and come say hi to me on Twitch where I stream almost daily. Have a great rest of your day, and see you guys very soon. Bye!